Whether you want to put it all on James Franklin and the coaching staff, or say that the players just aren't doing their jobs, you'd be correct. This Penn State team is just not that good.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm still in disbelief that Saturday happened the way that it did. You are Locked On to Penn State football, and as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. More takeaways from UCLA's upset victory over the Nittany Lions, the worst loss in Penn State history, in my opinion. We're going to talk about some of the issues that actually do need to be fixed for this football team to be better going forward. Fire Franklin. No, I do want to talk some X's and O's and some schematics towards the end of the show. Because can they really salvage this season? Can the Nittany Lions actually run the tables, circle the wagons, save their season? I don't know, because honestly, this team is just not that good. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Friendly reminder to let me know your thoughts down in the comments section, and thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your regular routine. So we have to begin with that, because it is easy to put this all on coaching. And honestly, that is the right answer, because it's one thing. You go 10-2, you lose to the elite teams, you get to the college football playoff. Okay, this was the perfect setup for James Franklin, but he's never done this. I know 9 overtimes against Illinois. I get it, but not routinely. Okay, so you can't beat Oregon, you can't beat Ohio State, you can't beat a championship caliber Michigan team, Notre Dame in the postseason, but you win everything else. You've hit a new low, and it starts and ends with coaching when the team looks like they didn't even get off the plane. Missed tackles. Guys are missing blocks. Just flat out not executing. But in that same breath, so you have to keep the team focused. Because if the team's not focused, that's a reflection of coaching. That's a reflection of how practice went. If guys look unmotivated, like they don't want to be there. I do want to say at the same time, though, the coaching staff bears a ton of responsibility. You know, Jim Knowles getting out-schemed by a 33-year-old 5-day on-the-job offensive coordinator and Jerry Neuheisel. Shout out to Jerry Neuheisel for out-scheming a $3 million defensive coordinator. Andy Kotelnicki calling I don't even know what it is. Just boneheaded play calls at points in time. Something that is so predictable in the moment on that 4th and 2. But also, hey, look, the players are not absolved in this instance. Guys are just not executing. They are just not doing their jobs. You could point to Drew Allerin moments against Oregon. You could point to, I just think of some of the key blocks that were missed on certain plays. Nick Dawkins or Luke Reynolds on specifically, those are the first names that come to mind with some plays that, hey, why didn't this work? Was Andy Kotelnicki's play call that bad? Oh no, because this guy just totally whiffed on a block. You flip it over to the defense. At the end of the day, Jim Knowles can't make the tackles for guys. So it's both. It is both. The coaching, not having these guys mentally prepared, because you know that coming off of the whiteout game after losing to Oregon the way that you did, it was going to be an uphill battle to stay mentally focused. You've been here before, James. You have been here in this situation. And don't tell me that Jim Knowles and Andy Kotelnicki haven't dealt with any sort of similar adversity. Okay? But the bottom line is James Franklin has, where the focus is, well, one loss can't turn into two, because it's happened before. You've had these similar setups where you do spiral for that second game. Not every time, but it's certainly, let's take Indiana, for example, most recently, where you almost lost to a bad Tom Allen-led Indiana team. Fortunately, you get a win, but I talk about those moments where it's just such a struggle against a terrible football team. That's the worst FBS team right now in college football, and they looked like a team that was a dark horse to contend for a playoff spot, or they looked like an 8-4, 9-3 team. You made them look that way. That's what coaching can do. Okay, Jerry Neuheisel and that makeshift staff was able to make UCLA look like a competent football team. But players have to tackle. They have to block. Drew's got to complete passes. Receivers got to catch the passes, right? Running backs got to hit the lane. You have to prepare them. You also have to do their job. So I'm just here to say at this point that this team is just not that good. They have talent, but at the end of the day, I just don't think they're as good as myself and a lot of other people made them out to be. As a national title contender, they have serious flaws. There are depth issues. Clearly, you lose one player and the whole defense breaks down. Tony Rojas is unavailable and a guy, Nico Iamaleava isn't even a mobile quarterback. Okay, he is. He's quick, he can move, but that's not his forte. That's not his main choice. But you get a somewhat mobile quarterback that you have to defend against, and Penn State's defense completely broke down because Tony Rowe and James Franklin said that. Oh, if we just had, not specifically, he didn't say if we had Tony Rojas, but he implied it. Well, we traveled a long distance. We're coming off of the Oregon game. If we had specific players, we lost our QB spy. That's how he framed it as. We didn't have our QB spy. You have to make that adjustment. I feel like Jim Knowles and yourself, who have coached football for as long as you did, have to be able to find a solution to that. You don't have only one player that can chase down a quarterback. You have to make the adjustments. But even in those adjustments, guys are just getting pushed off of the line of scrimmage. I have been so utterly surprised with someone like Zane Durant. Zane Durant has just had not a great season. He had his moments against UCLA, but he is just getting pushed off of the line of scrimmage, and there's nobody else at defensive tackle that has been able to step up, and that's why the defensive tackle depth was such a question mark, and it shows. Even though the depth is intact, they're not doing a whole lot. So how one player is out and the entire defensive game plan falls apart against the worst team in FBS college football right now? Coaches are supposed to make adjustments. They need to prepare this team. It is on James Franklin because, hey, you said it. You set yourself up this way by saying that this was the best coaching staff that you had and the best players. This was the best personnel group that you've had in your entire coaching career. And here Penn State is outside of the top 25. But Luke Reynolds cannot hesitate on a key block. Nick Dawkins cannot be late on another block to set up a play. Nicholas Singleton just looks so hesitant to hit the lane. It doesn't look like he knows what he's seeing out there on the football field. The UCLA game, I don't put a lot of it on Drew. I don't put, honestly, any of it on Drew. He didn't commit any turnovers. They had the onside kick throws a wrench into everything. Again, that's another bit of coaching. The punt. You have to have your team somewhat prepared, but the team also has to make tackles. The amount of missed tackles there were against UCLA. I can understand this if this was against USC or Washington, but it was against UCLA. This team's just not that good. They were an injury away or a demoralizing loss away, as we've seen in real time, from just totally falling apart. And that's what's happened. So can they actually salvage their season? Well, some people are trying to make the argument that if they went out, beating Ohio State, they would have to beat Ohio State and Indiana. We'll talk about it on the other side of this break. And this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan stay motivated, and reach peak performance. You'll love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations will keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Plus today at onepeloton.com. That is onepeloton.com. So can Penn State actually salvage their season? Technically, yes. Yes, they can. It would mean they got to go 10-2. Oh, look, signature of past Penn State teams finishing 10-2. But they would have to do the very unthinkable. Win out, go completely undefeated, win on the road at Iowa, obviously beat an Ohio State team that's number 1 in the country right now. Go into Columbus, a team that you haven't defeated in a decade, and defeat them. Beat a top 10 Indiana team and probably a top 25 Nebraska team. Those are 4 really tough games, especially with what we've seen against UCLA. But yes, in theory, Penn State can salvage its season, win out, go 10-2. I think wins against Ohio State, Iowa, Nebraska, and Indiana, particularly the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers, would satisfy the playoff committee enough to let Penn State in as an at-large. Would they host a home game? Probably not. I think they'd be a 10 or an 11 seed at that point in time. So can they? Yes. Will they? Is a completely different question. Don't start to think for a moment that this is 2016 all over again, where Penn State lost a non-conference game to Pitt, and then they got demolished by Michigan, 49-10. I remember that game very well. And then circled the wagons and won out. And they beat Ohio State that year. That was the last time they beat Ohio State. But that one was at home. And that's not the reason, because this game's in Columbus, that Penn State is going to be able to do it. No. How am I supposed to expect Penn State to beat Ohio State, a top 3 at a minimum? Right? Because you can debate, is it Miami? Is it Oregon? I believe Ohio State's 1A and 1B with Oregon. So Penn State would have to beat the number 1 team in the country. You're going to have to sit here and convince me that Penn State, after losing to UCLA, would have to beat the number 1 team in the country on the road, a top 10 Indiana team the week after. You don't get a bye or anything there. You get a bye going into Ohio State, but so does Ohio State. So and we saw that the bye week doesn't matter. Penn State had 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon. That clearly doesn't matter. That's not an extra advantage for the Nittany Lions. But that they'd be able to do that. It's different this time around because this team had its expectations shattered. They cracked under the pressure, whereas nobody was giving that other Penn State team a chance in 2016, where they were counted out and then they started to figure things out and they really got it together. I mean, this Penn State team does have problems. So to salvage the season, to win games that seem almost, I'm worried about Iowa. You can joke and say that Northwestern's going to win and upset them, but you honestly have a case with the way that they just played against UCLA, because it was coaching malpractice. It was lack of player focus. Players just not doing anything right against UCLA, especially on defense. And then I'm supposed to expect them to figure it all out in a matter of a couple of games and ball out against Iowa at Kinnick, beat Ohio State, beat Indiana and Nebraska, games that you would think, check that one off. Iowa should be no issue. Nebraska should be no issue. Penn State and Ohio State, I genuinely believe that was a toss-up. Not anymore. That could be a toss-up. Yeah, Ohio State should be favored. That one's in Columbus. But with what Penn State has, that should be... No. No, my opinion's completely different in that, they should be favored against Indiana. No, I would favor Indiana by at least a field goal and start to push towards a touchdown, somewhere 4 or 5 points, I would favor Ohio State by probably 8 or 9. And then Nebraska becomes a toss-up with Penn State as a slight favorite. Because I don't know how they're mentally going to be able to handle some of these games. Yes, you can salvage your season, but that doesn't mean you will. So I'm not sure how Penn State's going to approach it when if you're mentally checked out against UCLA this early in the season, because the conversation already was, we still have everything in front of us. You acknowledged it. James Franklin acknowledged it. Players acknowledged it. Hey, the season's far from over. Look at Ohio State. They went 10-2. But this isn't the same situation. You lost to the worst team in FBS because you totally crumbled under the pressure after losing to Oregon. That is what happened. So to follow it up, when you still have some of the toughest games on the schedule, Ohio State lost to Michigan at the end of the season and then had a chance to just kind of recalibrate for give or take a month and then go into the playoffs with a total reset. How do you expect to turn it around like that? Because you don't have that same type of setup. You don't have a month to just let this simmer, figure it out. No, it's still a day-by-day situation. So if you cracked and crumbled under the pressure against UCLA, I can't buy into the fact that they beat Ohio State or Indiana. And again, Nebraska and Iowa become that much tougher. I have lost that much confidence in those games. I'm just not entirely sure if this group's still with it, that they're not completely checked out. So yeah, can they salvage their season? Sure. But to sit here and argue that they're just going to rally and be able one by one to beat teams that they might just not be flat out better than anymore. Ohio State's one thing, but Indiana and Nebraska and Iowa, it's going to be very telling. So we'll see what kind of fight Penn State has, but it's different now when guys just look so defeated. James Franklin just looks defeated on the sideline for a majority of the UCLA game. Players post-game after both Oregon and UCLA just seem defeated. And I'm supposed to believe that they're going to rally and win all these games and go on this phenomenal winning streak and save the season. It's a possibility, but it's extremely unlikely. If they were to do that, though, if they were to salvage the season, they got to make changes now, ASAP. So what issues need to be fixed? Well, we're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home. Whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved chain that's been rooted in your community for years, these businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Take Cartridges Galore in State College, your local outlet for all things video games. When we show up as a community, it can mean big business for local business owners. Money spent in the neighborhood stays in the neighborhood. Take this ad as an excuse to go support your favorite local spot and have yourself a day in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays. You can try player props. You can even follow live lines during the game. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. And whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. And yes, lines are available for Penn State versus Northwestern. Penn State is a heavy favorite, 22.5 points, over a 3-touchdown favorite on the spread, minus 2,800 on the money line. If you're thinking Northwestern, plus 1160, the total is set at 48.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So if Penn State's going to run the tables, what can they do to make the team better overall? I know the fun answers, the comments are going to say, fire James Franklin, bench Drew Aller. Let's talk about some of the actual X's and O's and scheme changes that I would recommend for Penn State to be a little more competent and capable going forward, to look competitive against Ohio State and Indiana, which looked like severe mismatches, and to be a consensus favorite over the likes of Iowa and Nebraska later on, and just win comfortably against the teams that you're supposed to, Northwestern, Michigan State, Rutgers, the way that it's supposed to go. First off, I mean, this just break the mold, man. Break it. Do something different. When I say that, that's directly at the way that James Franklin and the process, because the process is failing you. Do something. Throw a wrench into this. Bull in the china shop type of situation, because I think it's inexcusable to lose to UCLA, and I said that. I said that it was inexcusable to lose to UCLA. So it might be best to make everybody just run laps. And it's just, well, it's our routine, and we do this Monday at 7 a.m. and we do this Tuesday at 6 p.m. and we're regimented, and we do this way, we do this thing this way every single time. Is it working? Because I thought that James Franklin would change up the messaging, and, you know, when he didn't post his 1-0, you know, we need everybody. We need the students. We need the faculty. We need everybody to help us beat Northwestern. He still posted it. I think it would have been better to go radio silent. So changing your regiment might actually be a good thing at this point. Why not shake things up to see if it will get the team to focus, if it will get the team more motivated, because you have no room for error. This method is leaving you open to error. I think it's worth trying something different. I'm not saying you have to totally flip your plan upside down and flip your week and completely do things that you're not used to, but maybe change how practice goes. Maybe change how those meetings go. Just try something different. You might find that it might work, because the process is only getting you to 10-2 and losing you games now that you shouldn't. As far as X's and O's go and schemes and everything else, Kaytron Allen's got to be running back number one going forward. I'm honestly bewildered. Everybody is. Everyone's just shocked. I understand if Nicholas Singleton was giving the team something, where, and I said it a couple of episodes ago that I'm not against Nicholas Singleton being out there, but it's Kaytron Allen that is the clear running back one. He is RB1. Singleton, give him his own hybrid role where he's this pass catcher / running back, where you can line him up in the slot and move him around the formation and cause some confusion. Is it because Cam Wallace and Quentin Martin aren't 100%? Because the running back depth, if it's an issue, then I can understand why Penn State's still doing this RB by committee, because if you lose Kaytron Allen or Nicholas Singleton to an injury, then yeah, things get questionable. But I don't care what the risk is anymore. Allen needs to be the starting running back and get 20 to 25 carries and give Singleton other opportunities. But you hyped up his pass catching ability, how he is as a receiver nowadays, and I haven't seen any of that. It is worth using both of them, because when I've said this before and I'll say it again, Penn State's best 11 on the football field on offense include both Singleton and Allen, and I still stand by that. Just because Singleton is on a little bit of a cold streak here does not mean that he's not completely devoid of talent. It means you need to try something different to open the game plan up and give him something that's just going to get him comfortable within the offense again. Again, it goes back to coaching. You can do it, though. You can utilize Singleton as a pass catcher. You can utilize Allen, both Singleton and Allen, at the same time. That's one thing that I would do. Second thing is you really got to consider shaking up the offensive line. I thought this group was going to be one of the best in the country. That's another thing that I've had wrong here. So I thought this team was a national title contender. Penn State's defense was going to be practically unbreakable. And Jim Knowles was really going to maximize the talent that he has. There are clearly some issues here. One of them is offensive line. I said this group was in contention for the Joe Moore Award. They're clearly not. And if they want to look like somewhat of a respectable group, you got to make a couple of changes. I would consider, and I don't like doing this. I don't like advocating for people to be benched, but open up the competition open up another competition and say, hey, these starting spots are no longer safe. We are not content with our offensive line play, so therefore you're going to have to re-earn your spot. Vanga Ioane seems to be the only offensive lineman right now, and TJ Shanahan against UCLA that have done good enough, that have shown that they're at least reliable for most of the time. I've been disappointed in Nick Dawkins. I've been disappointed in Drew Shelton and Nolan Rucci and Anthony Donko. So is there a change at right guard? Possibly. TJ Shanahan just might have it figured out. So then reopen the right tackle spot. Anthony Donko and Nolan Rucci should battle it out at right tackle. TJ Shanahan's safe at right guard. I know Nick Dawkins is your captain, so I don't say this lightly, but you might need a center competition. Does that mean Cooper Cousins immediately goes in? I'm not entirely sure, because I know that Vanga Ioane took a lot of snaps in practice over the course of spring football, the off-season, training camp, and then into the season. Vanga Ioane has taken reps at center. So if Vanga Ioane is your best option at center and then Cooper Cousins goes in at left guard, so be it. I'm not really concerned how it's going to look at the end of the day, but if it's going to be a better group, if that means Shelton, Cousins, Ioane, Shanahan, and Donko is your new offensive line going forward, it needs to be the case if it's going to be better than what the starting five has been, which is so odd to me because this group had so much success in that postseason run, and somehow they haven't been able to bring it over for this season. I'm not sure what the disconnect is. That falls on coaching because this is your same group of players. And then offensive play calling. A lot of these issues are offensive, and I'll throw in one defensive because the defense didn't do it. Penn State's offense scored 37 points, so they did something right. In the passing game, still, the wide receivers, Trevor Pena, Devontae Ross, and Kyron Hudson, you don't have the superstar tight end anymore. I am concerned about Luke Reynolds. Luke Reynolds had a terrible game between the fumble, missed blocks. Luke Reynolds just isn't there yet. I think he has potential. I'm not ready to write him off, but he's not ready right now. Khalil Dankins and Andrew Rapplier are your tight ends 1 and 2. They can both block. They can both catch. You can use them and see if you can get Luke Reynolds into the slot as a receiver more often, but do not have him as a blocker. So I would shake up the tight end depth chart a little bit. And wide receiver, just easier route concepts. Because I don't know why Devontae Ross is held without a catch against UCLA. He can run quick slants, drag routes. Same thing with Trevor Pena. I thought that Andy Kotelnicki was supposed to be the guy that answered all of the issues of the route concepts where Mike Yurcich wasn't able to scheme guys open, but Andy Kotelnicki can, and he's not. But that's what I would do. Just get better passing concepts for these guys, just simpler ones, to maximize their athleticism. Devontae Ross can create separation. Trevor Pena can create separation. Kyron Hudson can catch in traffic. We saw that on Saturday against UCLA in the loss. but I feel like it should be easier. It shouldn't be this complicated. It shouldn't be this difficult to get these wide receivers into open space. Pena was all conference at Syracuse. He doesn't look like it at Penn State. On the defensive side of things, this is really difficult because the loss of Tony Rojas is that important. It has that much of an impact. You might have to run more defensive backs. I'm not going to sit here and try to be a genius know-it-all and say they should run a 4-1-6 and Amari Campbell should be the lone linebacker. But if you face a running mobile quarterback, so Penn State is fortunate to where Preston Stone is going to run the football a little more because he can. But they're not going to get into too many situations where they're going to have to worry about a quarterback's legs all that much. Okay, maybe against Iowa and Mark Gronowski, but Julian Sayin isn't a mobile QB, right? Dylan Raiola isn't a mobile QB. They can pick up yards with their legs, but fortunately for Penn State, they don't face another quarterback like that until Aiden Childs, where you're going to have to account for him as a true dual threat. So Penn State has that going for them. But you're going to have to find a way to get pressure on quarterbacks and really stack the box. That is what I would do defensively because Penn State's defensive line is just getting pushed around. Denied Dennis Sutton is commanding a lot of attention. You're going to have to the focus is, so I kind of passively joke about, hey, run more defensive backs. What I mean is you got to get some more speed on the football field and then crash the box. You're going to have to trust A.J. Harris in one-on-one coverage and Elliott Washington and really press the front seven because you're getting pushed around. UCLA ran the football at will. So therefore, you're going to have to stack the box and dare teams to throw it. You can dare Northwestern to throw it. You can dare Iowa to throw it. I don't know how you respond against Ohio State. Good luck with that one. We'll figure that out when that game rolls around and we actually, go through why Ohio State because of the talent, but how they're able to pass it so effectively, how you even try to stop that. But you got to make Northwestern and Iowa throw the ball. So sell out for the run, press the line of scrimmage, dial up some blitzes because the defensive line is just getting pushed around. The linebackers are getting sucked into the blocks. It was bad against UCLA. That's what I would do. And that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Wanted to get some final takeaways out there that are football related more so than coaching changes or anything else, but just trying to understand the Penn State UCLA result, talk about what's left to go in the season before we get into some of those other extracurricular conversations. Thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your regular routine. If you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We do this daily here on Locked On Nittany Lions, talking about all your favorite Penn State sports teams, whether that's football, wrestling, basketball, hockey, recruiting as well, you name it, it's all right here.